a very auspicious day. Today is the birthday of Paramacharya of Kanchi, the sage of Kanchi, Chandrasekharendra Saraswati. Also, today is the birthday of Shri Buddha, and today is Paurnami Day. So it's called Buddha Purnima. On this day, Shri Buddha had his enlightenment, the final fulfillment, the final and total awakening. It is his Nirvana day, and also this happens to be the day of his Mahasamadhi. A very strange thing that the 3 days, 3 important days of life fell on a Paurnami day, which could also mean that he was Purana right from the birth. He was born on a Purana day, Paurnami day. Even when he got enlightenment, it was Purana, Purnima, and again Mahasamadhi. Now we see how connected the sage of Kanchi and Bhagawan Yogi Ramsuratkumar. I will just narrate 2 episodes and stop to that, and then go on to Buddha. Bhagawan loved both of them so much. He had complete veneration for both. If somebody so much as mentioned the name Paramacharya, saying that they were coming from him, I had seen Bhagawan get up with force and prostrate before them, saying, "Oh, you have brought the blessings of Paramacharya for this dirty beggar." And I remember a particular scene in Sudama. By then I had read about Sri Chandramauli, who was one of the attendants of Paramacharya. They are called Kinkaras. They do Kainkaryam. So they are called Kinkaras, and Sri Chandramauli was one of them. And when Sri Chandramauli used to come to Tiruvannamalai also, especially on December 1st, and then once when Chandramauli wanted to come, he wanted to take permission from Bhagawan, from Paramacharya, to come to Tiruvannamalai. Paramacharya seemed indifferent. He would not say anything, go or not go. But finally, on the day, December 1st, he called Chandramauli and gave him lots of prasad from Kamakshi temple, saying that he had a yajna done in the name of Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and he wanted Chandramauli to take prasad. You can imagine how Chandramauli must have felt, because he was thinking, he was upset that Paramacharya was not giving permission, was not saying anything, he was keeping quiet, which could mean anything. But then it turned out to be something very special that he carried very happily all the way, the prasad given by Paramacharya. And Yogi ji, on his part, for his part, he celebrated the prasad. He put it on his head, he put it on his chest, all the time saying, "Oh, Paramacharya has sent this beggar. Paramacharya has sent it." Such was the kinship between the two. Shri Paramacharya had to take bath minimum 3 times a day, but Yogi ji had not taken bath for nearly 40 years. In those 7 years he stayed at Sudama, he took bath only 3 times. And that because it became necessary. Now once I remember, I had also read a story that when Chandramouli mentioned Yogi Ramsuratkumar's name to Paramacharya, pat came the reply from Paramacharya, "Oh, they are all far above. Avalla romba mele irukka. They are all far above." Since I had read about it, I wanted to make sure that Paramacharya said that in truth. So once, when Chandramouli had come to Sudama, I asked Bhagawan for permission to find out if the narration was right. Bhagawan was smoking. He looked at me and said, "All right, you can ask Chandramouli." Then I went on to ask him, "Is it true that when you mentioned Bhagawan's name, that Paramacharya said like this?" He said, "Yes." He looked at Bhagawan, smiled and said, "Yes." Then I wouldn't leave it at that. I said, "Would you please repeat it? Would you please tell us how exactly he said it?" Again Bhagawan laughed, and Chandramouli also smiled, and there were tears in his eyes. And then he said, in Tamil, just the way Paramacharya spoke, "Avalla romba mele irukka." And I saw Bhagawan, and the Bhagawan's eyes filled up. You can imagine me sitting there and watching the two. And then you know what Bhagawan said? "Devaki, Paramacharya is so kind to this beggar." One was saying about the other that he is far above. The other was saying, by saying this he is being very kind to this beggar. That it was Paramacharya's kindness that made him say that. The way, the veneration they had, the veneration and love they had for each other could only be compared to Rama's love for Shiva and Shiva's love for Rama. Such was the kinship between the two. Bhagavan always said that Paramacharya had come exclusively for saving the Vedas and Vedic Pandits. But for Paramacharya, it would have been very difficult to all those Vedic Pandits to continue their work. Bhagavan said that we owe, the entire humanity owe a deep debt of gratitude to Sri Paramacharya. And he always quoted one particular simile that Sri Paramacharya used. when he was conducting some yajna. And of course, it needed a lot of money. And when this Atirudra yajna was going on, there was also criticism around from some corners. They were saying, why would they spend so much money and they put all that into that fire? Why couldn't they spend it for the poor people? In the name of Abhishekam, they are pouring milk which goes to the earth. What a waste. Why couldn't they give it to all the starving people? When this was going on, Paramacharya, by way of replying, said, when you till the land, plow, and get the soil ready for seeding, then you take the paddy and then you sprinkle it everywhere. So much of them are being used for planting in the earth. Then Paramacharya said, would you call it a waste? You could say, why those paddies can be used for making rice for the poor. Why should they waste it? Why should they throw it on the earth? Can you call it throwing it on the earth? If you can call that simply throwing it on the earth and wasting, you can call this yajna also a waste. Just as those paddies were going to grow and prepare themselves for a huge harvest, just as they bear fruit later on, and they give huge gunny bags full of rice, paddies in return. All that we throw into the fire of sacrifice, the yajna, is no waste. It is sacrifice. And it's going to fetch the grace from all those devatas who are looking after the world. We get rains, we get the sunlight, we get oxygen, we get the air, we get water, all free. Nobody is charging you for any of this. You get fire for cooking, you get air for breathing, oxygen, and water. Just think of life without water. Can you live without water? Now these devatas have to be propitiated. It's only then the rains would come in time. All those seasons would keep up their order so that the humanity would not suffer. This Bhagawan often quoted because he liked it so much. He said, how well Paramacharya has said it. What a reply. How could anybody criticize any more? And I remember there was one particular incident that when Paramacharya was on a fast for several days, and the day finally came for him to take some juice and to finish the fast. But then Paramacharya would not take anything, he would not say anything also. The fasting seemed to continue. It was reported to Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagawan here in Tiruvannamalai, and then he asked a devotee to bring an orange, peeled it, and put them all in his coconut shell, crushed them, and ate the whole lot. And soon after that, they got the news that Paramacharya had taken the juice, orange juice. Shri Muralidhara Swamiji was there at the time and this happened. It is he who reported it to us. These are all glimpses of two great souls. Just remembering them is living in God. Just remembering them will bring a lot of blessings to all of us. And this is an auspicious day. So even a little tapas will bear enormous fruit. So we are all very fortunate. Now we shall return to Buddha. Bhagawan, even as a boy, he read a book on Buddha. He also read The Light of Asia. Buddha went into him very deeply. He was so much drawn to him. Knowing this, Kapadiya Baba sent him to Varanasi. And when he was there at Manikarnika Ghat, suddenly it struck this little boy that Sarnath was only 13 kilometers from Varanasi, and that is where Sri Buddha gave his first sermon, first teachings. So he walked all the way, those 13 kilometers, all the while thinking that this is the way Lord Buddha would have walked also. He felt ecstatic to remember that Buddha walked the same path. And as soon as he reached and saw this Dharmarajka stupa, it's called the Dhammik stupa, again he remembered Sri Buddha and his first teachings. And you can imagine how ecstatic he became. And later when he went and reported his ecstasy at the spot, Shri Kapadiya Baba asked him to go to Buddha Gaya, to go see this Bodhi tree. So Balak, this young Ramsurat, went to Buddha Gaya also, because that is where Sri Buddha spent 6 years doing tapas. Sri Buddha was married. Everybody knows the story very well, so we wouldn't go into the details. Enough to say he left his wife and child at the age of 29 to find out, because he saw a man afflicted with disease and a man, the dead body of a man. And he saw an old man. He did not know that the aging was there. He did not know there was death, an end to this life on earth. He did not know there was disease at all. They were all hidden from him. But then immediately he was filled with dispassion for the world. And that set him on the path immediately. And at the age of 35, he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. He found all the answers to his questions. So the first teachings that he spoke at the Dharmarajka Stupa, the first 4 truths, Buddha stated, this life is naturally full of suffering. The second one, the selfish desire, is the root cause of the suffering. And the third one, there is a way out of the suffering. And the fourth was to follow the eightfold path, which meant the right faith, right thinking, right speech, right action, right living, right meditation. This Bhagawan often quoted, and Bhagawan would say, there in the third one, Buddha said, there's a way out of the suffering. How? Control your mind, control your passions, control your selfishness. When you give up the desires for the world, then you will find out the ultimate truth. And how to control the mind, that is when he prescribed this eightfold path. Bhagawan remembered all this. In fact, it was Bhagawan who taught me these four truths that Buddha spoke of. Now let's shift to Sannidhi Street House. It was 1st July 1979. Agaram Jayaraman was seated there on the veranda. A family entered. It was about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So, as soon as they came inside, Bhagawan looked at each of them and blessed. It was Justice Ramakrishna Iyer's family. His eldest son Venkatesan had come there, and his son Ramakrishna. Now Bhagawan turned to Venkatesan and asked him, "You know Sanskrit? Will you please tell me the literal meaning of the word, the Sanskrit word, nirvana?" Immediately, Sri Venkatesan said, "It means the state of bliss, the state of stillness." Ramakrishna, the son of Venkatesan, who was seated nearby, said to Bhagawan, "Swamiji, in our textbook for nirvana, to attain nirvana, it is stated that right thinking and right action are necessary." Immediately, Bhagavan smiled and said, "Ramakrishna, is that so? Now will you please tell me what right action is?" Then Ramakrishna, the boy, said, "Not doing any harm to others, always doing only good, that which is good." Then Bhagavan asked him, "Ramakrishna, suppose you find yourself in a room, a locked room, and there's a cobra with you. What will you do? You will not harm, you will not kill the cobra. What will you do? Your very life is at stake." Immediately, Ramakrishna said with folded hands, "Swamiji, I would pray to God to help me out of this situation," which brought a smile to Bhagavan's lips. And then Bhagavan blessed him with a smile. And then he said, "Ramakrishna, this beggar has another question. You see, Lord Krishna is God. You know that. He was urging Arjuna to kill all his kith and kin who were standing opposite to him. It was Lord Krishna who urged Arjuna to kill all his people, his own kith and kin. Do you think it was right action? Now Ramakrishna did not know what to say. Not only Ramakrishna, his father did not know what to say, nor any of them who were present there. And then Bhagavan answered himself and said, you see, Arjuna was a king. It was king's virtue, it is king's dharma to establish dharma and to destroy adharma. To save all the good people, to protect all the good people and destroy all the evil people. It is a dharma. It is the dharma, it is his duty as a king. So Lord Krishna said that to Arjuna, and then immediately smiled and said, Ramakrishna, we are not kings like Arjuna. We don't have to bother about this. And everybody relaxed. Then Bhagavan once again asked Venkatesan, will you please tell me the literal meaning of the word nirvana? And again Venkatesan said it meant the state of bliss, the state of stillness, not being disturbed by anything. The ultimate peace. Immediately Bhagavan quoted a sloka from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Apuryamana. That's how it starts. And then Bhagavan went on to explain the meaning of the sloka. He said, just as a sea, an ocean, is always full and it keeps up its boundary, it never crosses that. When the seasons come and the rains pour down and all the rivers will bring all those waters to the ocean. The ocean doesn't swell because of that, nor does it cross its boundary. It looks just the same, full, the state of fullness, and it doesn't cross the boundary. And when the seasons come, some of the rivers would dry up. The other rivers will not give so much water. Now, on these occasions, the ocean does not shrink. It ever remains full. It is ever in the state of fullness. It's not disturbed by anything. And again imagine the huge waves due to the movement of the air. They rise very high and still the ocean keeps up its boundary. Except on some rare occasion like tsunami with sufficient cause. We wouldn't go into that. This is the normal state for these people who have attained nirvana. They are not disturbed by anything. They are always in the state of bliss. They are always in the state of stillness. It's only a thought. Behind every suffering, there is only, this whole suffering would have started with a single thought. Everything about this life starts with a single thought. So when these people are free of thoughts, then it is ever full with ananda, bliss. And then Bhagavan said, Ramakrishna, it's very difficult to attain this state of nirvana. It is easy for those great people who have attained it. But for people like you and me, ordinary people, Ramakrishna, it's very difficult to attain that. So what to do? And then Bhagavan went ahead to say, let us serve people who have attained nirvana with dedication. Serving the great masters who are established in the highest truth, the ultimate truth. Serving these great masters with dedication, sincerity and earnestness would take us to that state of nirvana. This is the best way among all paths. And then Bhagavan said, it's very difficult to control one's mind. All the 8 paths described by Buddha, one cannot follow, very difficult. But one can take up one of the 8 and practice all through life. He said, we always try to change others. We fight with others outside, point out their mistakes, and we want them to change. But do we ever fight inside us? All those negative forces inside? Do we ever fight? He said a sevak should not fight with people outside. He should fight his own negative thoughts out and have a good control over the mind. How will you get the control of mind? It's only when you fight all those negative thoughts out. Thoughts of anger, thoughts of jealousy, thoughts of passion, thoughts of self-pride, thoughts of desire for this and that. Fight them out. Fight inside and have a grip over yourself. Then you would make the best sevak. And serving the great master with all earnestness, sincerity, to his satisfaction, to the satisfaction of the great master. That's very important. Serve the great master to the full satisfaction of the great master. It's the best and the shortest route to nirvana. So let's remember all these teachings today, and let's bow deeply before Shri Buddha, Shri Paramacharya of Kanchi, and our Bhagawan, Sadguru Bhagawan Yogi Ramsuratkumar, who is here right in front of us, with raised hand in benediction and a smile on his lips and eyes turned upwards to Brahmarandra. Bhagavan, we beg you for your immediate divine intervention to free the entire world in general and India in particular from this dreadful virus and bring back normalcy in every aspect of life. Bhagavan, kindly uproot the panic from the hearts of people and other negativities. Stop the spread of the disease. Enter those medicines. Make them work so that all these viruses, the entire clan would be destroyed. And all those people were waiting outside the hospitals for want of bed, and room for want of oxygen. Please, Bhagawan, please reach out to them and provide them with whatever is necessary for them so that they get proper treatment, get well soon and return home safely. And Bhagawan, all those great soldiers who are fighting the disease at the very risk of their life, for the sake of others, against all challenges, please give them protection. We also beg you for a lift to our economy, and above all, ceaseless chanting of your name, ceaseless remembrance of your name. Please bless us with that attitude of gratitude with which we would serve as fitting instruments in your hands, in our life. And we beg you again to bless us with purity of heart so that we could see only your presence and blessings in every happening of life. Jai Yogi Ramsuratkumar.